The storage shed in our backyard was a cramped vault of shadows, the flashlight's beam cutting through dust motes, the air thick with the scent of old wood and forgotten things. It was late after a family dinner, and I was there with Ethan, my husband's stepson, sorting through boxes of junk to clear space. The night was quiet, and when Ethan knelt beside me, his presence, lean and tense, caught me off guard, stirring something deep. He did something I didn't expect, and I let it linger, letting the shed's darkness pull me under. I was 34, married to Greg, a man whose love was steady but worn like a box left unopened. Ethan was different, tall, wiry, with hands that sifted through old photos with quiet strength, and eyes that burned with unspoken want. His flannel shirt, rolled at the sleeves, clung to his frame, the flashlight's glow tracing his sharp forearms. My top, a fitted gray sweater tucked into a skirt, hugged my curves, catching the dim light, and his gaze lingered, slow, deliberate, waking a hunger I'd buried deep. My wedding ring glinted, a faint protest, but it couldn't dim the fire rising in my chest. The house was a distant hum beyond the shed's walls, its warmth drowned by the creak of the wooden floor and the rustle of papers. Ethan moved to a box, his movements calm, almost careful, but his eyes were wild, untamed. I stood by a shelf, my skirt brushing my thighs, revealing a flash of skin as I shifted, and his gaze followed, dark, possessive, stirring something reckless. I should have gone back to the house, kept Greg's voice clear in my mind. But I stayed, and the night grew thicker, heavier. He offered me a stack of photos, their edges worn warm from his hands. "Check these," he said, his voice low-textured like the grain of old wood. I took the photos, our fingers brushing a spark that shot through me, settling low, aching, unbearable. The paper was rough, but it was nothing compared to the fire in my veins, the want that grew with every glance. My sweater clung to my skin, teasing my curves, and his eyes caught it, darkening with the desire that made my knees weak. The flashlight flickered, casting shadows that danced across his face, rugged and magnetic. My heart pounded a rhythm that matched the pulse of desire running through me. Ethan's gaze was a weight pressing against me, and I felt it, every inch of me alive, craving, screaming for something I shouldn't. "Sort them quick," he said, kneeling closer, his voice a soft command, like he was uncovering more than memories. I could have grabbed my bag, left the shed, but my body leaned toward him, my skin begging for his touch, his pull. The shed was a world apart, the house forgotten. His hand hovered near my wrist, so close I could feel its warmth, but he held back, waiting. "Keep it steady," he said, his eyes locking on mine, urging me to hold, to surrender. The guilt was there, Greg's face flashing in my mind, his smile as we ate dinner. But the want was ablaze, drowning out everything else. I clutched the photos, my breath shallow, my body trembling with the weight of what I was doing. The night was a relic, and I was already unboxed. The shed felt smaller now, the shadows tightening as the flashlight's beam bathed us in a pale, uneven glow. Ethan's flannel was loose, flecked with dust, outlining the lean muscles that flexed as he lifted a box. My sweater was a traitor, hugging my curves, the fabric heavy with the shed's musty warmth, my skin prickling under his gaze. The photos sat heavy in my hand, but it was his presence that made me dizzy, drunk on the promise of his touch. The house's hum was gone, replaced by the soft creak of the floor, a sound that vibrated through me like a pulse. "You find anything good?" he said, his voice rough, like he was sifting through more than junk. But he didn't move his body, a magnet pulling me closer. I thought of Greg, his gentle hands, his quiet love, the life we'd built, a routine of family dinners, predictable as a packed shelf. But Ethan's presence was a loose hinge, raw, untamed, filling the empty spaces Greg never could. My fingers twitched, aching to touch him, to feel the heat of his skin, the rhythm of his desire. The guilt was a sharp splinter stinging, but it only made the ache deeper, more desperate. The flashlight pulsed, casting shadows that seemed to sway with my heart. My skirt shifted, teasing my thighs, my breasts outlined by the tight sweater, and I felt exposed, alive, wanted in a way I hadn't been in years. Ethan knelt closer, his body so near I could smell the dust on his skin, mixed with the scent of flannel and want. His fingers brushed my hand as he handed me another photo, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through me, my body leaning toward him without permission. "Look closer," he said, his voice a low murmur, urging me to see more than the picture. My hands moved over the photo, its surface worn and cool, a wordless plea my body couldn't hide. The guilt was a scream, Greg's voice echoing his laugh as we cleared the table. But it was no match for the fire in my veins, the need that consumed me. I thought of Greg, his face soft in sleep, but Ethan's touch was real, burning, pulling me under. My fingers trembled, brushing his arm, an instinct I couldn't control, the sweater whispering against my skin, betraying my desire. His eyes darkened, locking on mine, a silent command to surrender. The shed was a cocoon, now shutting out the world. His hand slid to my shoulder, light but deliberate, and I gasped, the sound swallowed by the floor's creak. The guilt was there, Greg's trust a ghost in my mind, but Ethan's hands were real, promising a pleasure I'd forgotten existed. I leaned closer, my breasts brushing his arm, the contact sending a jolt through me that settled low, aching, unbearable. The flashlight's glow danced across his face, making him look like a man unearthing my ruin. "Hold it still," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear, sending a shiver through me that made my thighs clench. I couldn't hold back. My skin was on fire, my body trembling with need, my heart pounding like the shed's pulse. My hands found his wrist, feeling the heat through his sleeve, the rapid beat of his pulse. I was drowning in it, in him, in the reckless thrill of being wanted this way. The shelf was a trap, and I was already leaning against it. The shed was a crucible now, the flashlight's light forging something dangerous between us. Ethan's hands were on me, steady, possessive, guiding my fingers along the photo, as if he were uncovering my soul. The glow was faint but searing, highlighting every curve of my sweater, my skin prickling under his gaze. His touch was deliberate, each movement a spark in a blaze I couldn't resist, and I followed willingly, recklessly. My body was alive, every nerve singing, my thighs trembling as they brushed against a box, inviting him closer. His fingers slid higher, brushing the bare skin of my neck beneath my sweater, and I moaned, the sound soft, desperate, swallowed by the shed's hush. My body arched toward him, craving the contact, the sin. The guilt was a jagged board cutting through me, but it only made the desire sharper, more urgent. His lips grazed my temple, a slow, burning trail that made my head spin, my hands gripping his shoulders, nails digging into his flannel. The shadows danced, mirroring the chaos inside me, every movement a confession. "See it clear," he murmured, his voice rough with need, his breath hot against my cheek, urging me to sink deeper into the moment. But I couldn't pull back. Wouldn't pull back. The flashlight caught the sheen of sweat on his skin, making him look like a man salvaging my ruin. My hands slid down his chest, feeling the lean muscle beneath his shirt, the rapid beat of his heart matching mine. My skirt clung tighter, outlining every curve, and his eyes followed, dark and unyielding, drinking in every inch of me. His hand moved higher, tracing the curve of my ribcage through my sweater, his fingers brushing just beneath my breast, and I gasped, my body shuddering under his touch. The shed was a haze, the world reduced to the space between us, to the heat of his hands, the rhythm of my breath. I thought of Greg, his quiet love, his trust, his hand on mine as we laughed over dinner. But the thought was fleeting, swept away by the storm of desire. Every touch was a spark in a fire of surrender, and I burned it willingly, chasing the fire, the danger, the ecstasy. His lips brushed my jaw, his breath ragged, and I tilted my head back, offering more, offering everything. My body trembled, caught between guilt and need, but the need was a tidal wave crashing over me, drowning out everything else. His hand slid lower, pressing my hips against the shelf, and I moaned loud now, the sound mingling with the floor's creak. I was his, and he knew it, his touch binding me in ways I'd never be clean of. Then it came a sharp creak from the house, Greg's voice calling my name, breaking the spell, and with it, reality. His trust flashed in my mind, clear and accusing a weight I couldn't ignore. I pushed against Ethan's chest, my hands shaking, my breath ragged. He stepped back, his eyes dark with hunger and something like regret. But it was too late. The line had been crossed, even if we hadn't gone all the way. I was marked, branded by his touch, and I'd never be the same. I stumbled away from the shelf, my legs unsteady, my sweater still clinging to me like a confession. The flashlight's glow was dim now, but it couldn't hide the heat still burning inside me. I grabbed my bag, my fingers fumbling, and rushed to the door, the cool night air hitting me like a slap as I stepped outside. The walk back to the house was a blur of moonlight and guilt, my heart pounding with what I'd done, what I'd almost done. Greg was half asleep on the couch when I got inside, his face soft in the lamplight, peaceful, trusting. I stood over him, watching his chest rise and fall, the guilt twisting like a knife in my gut. The days that followed were a fog of want and shame. I went through the motions, cooking dinner, kissing Greg goodnight, but my mind was back in that shed, back with Ethan's hands, his eyes, his pull. I saw him again at a family gathering, his gaze catching mine across the room. We didn't speak, but we didn't need to. The air between us was charged, a silent promise of what could have been, what still might be. I told myself I'd stay away, that I'd be good. But every night as Greg slept beside me, I lay awake, my body burning with the memory of a touch that wasn't his, a moment that changed everything. The guilt was a living thing now, clawing at me, but so was the desire, a shadow that wouldn't fade. Ethan was just a stepson, a man who'd sorted boxes, but he'd stirred something in me I couldn't bury. I'd stopped short of the edge, but I'd gone far enough to know I'd never be whole. The shed, the dust, his hands, they were branded into me, a mark I'd carry forever. If this story set your heart racing, smash that like button. If you think I'm a fool for staying in the shed, hit dislike, I deserve it. Drop a comment, what would you do in my place? Subscribe for more stories that cut deep, share this with someone who needs to feel the fire, and check out the next one. The truth is raw, messy, and worth it. Catch you soon.